My favorite sport is dying. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to MJPTV. I'm MJP, where we put track and field first. I just want to thank you for clicking on my video. If you haven't already, like and subscribe and share the video, so hopefully we can help this channel grow. All right, and let's get right into it, explaining why track and field is dying. So as you may or may not know, the University of Minnesota cut its men's track and field program last week on September 10th. And so the biggest reason for this is because there's no college football being played this year, and football is the biggest revenue generating sport. And so the department was facing a deficit of $75 million, and they had to cut some programs in order to make up for that deficit. So the university will be honoring all the scholarships they gave out, including incoming freshmen. However, they did have to make cuts to a lot of coaches, and the highest paid coaches like the football coach, basketball coach, cut their salaries by around 7%. And this saved the university around $3 million, but University of Minnesota doesn't have a men's track and field program anymore. And so one thing that brought about this downfall was because a lot of colleges and universities rely on basketball and football solely to generate revenue for their athletic department. So when COVID struck and people weren't playing sports anymore, that left a lot of programs in a really tough spot. The University of Minnesota wasn't actually the first college university to cut a track and field program. That was actually Central Michigan when they cut their men's track and field program on May 19th. So Central Michigan actually immediately discontinued their men's track and field program. They still have cross country, but this saves them around $630,000. That was the cost to run the team. And so that leaves Central Michigan with 16 athletic programs. And 16 athletic programs in total is actually the NCAA minimum to have for any D1 college or university. And so the issue that track and field runs into is that it's not a revenue generating sport like football and basketball, even though it has such a high cost. And so a lot of universities look at track and field as an easy target to say, okay, that's gone. And so one thing I noticed while researching for this video is that the programs that were getting cut were mainly men's programs. And this was due to schools trying to stay in compliance with Title IX, which is still active even amid the COVID crisis. And so schools are turning to cutting men's programs in order to comply with Title IX. And so there are three ways that a college and university can comply with Title IX. And the first way is that the number of female student athlete scholarships is proportional to the number of females in the student body at said university or college. And so the second way is to demonstrate a continuing history of expanding women's sports at their college or university. And the third way to be in compliance is that the female student body's interests and abilities are being met by their athletic departments. And so as you can tell, one of these is much simpler and much easier to prove, which of course is the first one in being proportionate. So what a lot of universities and colleges are doing is to essentially make it simple for them. They choose proportionality, and so whatever their percentage is of female students, they match that with the number of scholarships and programs they have at their university. And so oftentimes, since women now make up most of people enrolled in colleges and universities, they're cutting men's programs in all sports left and right. And so in a way, Title IX is actually being used wrong because women's sports actually aren't being expanded right now during COVID because of financial concerns. And so instead of expanding women's sports, they're just cutting men's sports to make up for a financial deficit. A lot of these financial deficits predate COVID because of their over-reliance on football and basketball, right? And so the issue in college sports is that there are two main money makers, and when those are gone, most athletic departments are sunk. And so an interesting fact is that men are actually underrepresented when it comes to awarding athletic scholarships at colleges and universities, while being overrepresented in the participation of sports. And so even when men have complained about this misuse of Title IX, they've had poor results, especially when going to court. A lot of cases are dismissed, or they won't even really have a shot to state their case. And so as of April, 4 times as many men's programs are being cut across the country compared to women's programs, with 16 men's programs being cut compared to 4, just as of April. And many schools use the proportionality method because they see it as a permanent and quick and easy fix. So that way they can just move on, because during COVID, there are a lot of things you have to worry about. And so one school where Title IX was really misused was at the University of Delaware, where they cut their men's track and field program, even though they had met all all the compliance requirements. They had 16 sports minimum, and the proportionality was right. They cut men's track and field, and they're actually planning on adding women's golf, and this was actually their track program's 100th anniversary this year. And so the men's team did file an official complaint, but there's yet to be any word about how successful they've been in that pursuit. And so I'm just going to list off a few other schools that have had to make cuts due to COVID and because of financial constraints so far. So FIU cut their men's cross country and indoor track and field program. Appalachian State got rid of their indoor track program. Akron cut men's cross country. Stanford had to cut 11 varsity sports due to COVID and mainly stated financial concerns, but COVID was the big breaking point. Seton Hall dissolved their track program, which saved them around $1.5 million, and this is the program that has produced 19 Olympians. And finally, the University of Alaska cut their entire indoor track and field program. And so amidst all these programs being cut, there actually is still hope. And so Brown University, the Ivy League school, actually was able to save their programs because they had online petitions signed by over 60,000 people. And the leading program was trying to save the men's track and field, which had over 25,000 signatures. A similar thing happened at UConn, where they had their alums raise hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to save their programs. So my question for y'all is, what can universities and programs do in order to make non-football and basketball sports revenue-generating sports? I'd love if you'd leave your answers in the comments, and God bless.